Alhamdulillah wa rabbil alamin. Allah fi kulli umri yasta'in. Wa Allah fi kulli umri amjid. Inhu Rabbi Ghafur Rahim. Muhammadun huwa Sayyidina Magbubana. Wa inhu kana Rasulan Nabiyan. Salawatu Rabbi Taslimatihi alayhi. Innani althi ala kitabillah wa ala sunnati rasuli alayhi salatu salam bayati. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu an Muhammadan Rasulullah. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Lil ikhwani wa akhwati fi din wa kulli makan. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum wa kayfa halukum wa ailukum ma Allah. Thank you, my dear brothers and sisters who show up here today and those who show up in the future. And I'm happy that we have another day in life that we can worship Subhanahu wa ta'ala and to learn his book and learn what we need to do as Muslims to better ourselves and to reach the ultimate goal, which is Jannah, heaven. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother Isaac. And this is an important factor because, as I said before, Islam is a living religion. It's practiced every single day. There's no days off. And it's important that the Muslim maintains his Islam at all times. And I will say something before I get started because I had a running conversation with a person and they didn't mean no harm. They were, you know, as I said, I'm open to anything that someone says, even if it's contrary to Islamic beliefs, because they don't know and they're trying to learn. So you can never fault these persons for that. Well, this sister made a comment to me, and she tried to get me to explain. She said to me she did not understand why I did not emulate another brother that's on YouTube. And we know who he is, and why I don't emulate him. She tried to say, well, when it's time to be Muslim, then you okay, we understand that you do the things you're supposed to, but when you are not reading the Quran or studying or whatever, then you be like everybody else. And I explained to her that a Muslim is not supposed to be this way. Islam is 100% action, 100% action. And me as a Muslim, cannot follow the guise of the modern Muslims who appear this way. Yes, they're Muslim on these days, and other days they appear as disbelievers. This is contrary to what we're taught. And I gave the sister a verse in Surah Muhammad, alayhi salatu wasalam, our prophet. That surah, and there, Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you at the beginning, the best of us, the true members of the Muslim the community, are those who follow Allah and his messenger. Our messenger never took days off. He was a Muslim when he got up in the morning. When he went to bed at night, he was Muslim. This is the key. And this is part of my talk about Nirma. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you this light. Those who decide to play with it, who appear Muslim one day and then the next day they are something else, that's on them. But I refuse. And I refuse to go against my ancestors as well, as I explained to her. As I know of my ancestors, they followed, okay, the book. And I will give you an analogy of what was said. And when I had this royal a long time ago, and I studied, and they were hardline Muslims. I'm not talking about the Muslims today, like I've been talking about the last couple of weeks, who killed and so forth. I'm not into that. I've talked against them. Many know how I feel about them. But they had a slogan. They said that in their right hand was the Quran, and their left hand was the Saif. The Saif was a sword, meaning that they were into the Quran and the Sunnah, but they also fought to preserve their religion. So this is my guide, where I live for Islam. Now, this same person probably, said that I'm a fanatic. I'm not a fanatic, because a fanatic is a person who blindly goes into something. No Muslim is blind. He goes into it because Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has allowed him to accept the religion, and then he puts into him put knowledge into him as he wills. He does not misguide anyone. So when the Muslim goes from one side to the other side, is against that. I gave this speech a couple of weeks back, and I showed in the Quran where Subhanahu wa Ta'ala chided the Muslim who goes from left to right. He appears one way, he appears another way. He said they were true disbelievers. I don't want to be called that. And I don't want to live that way. So I begged to differ with my dear sister, and I told her, I said, no, I cannot do this. Because she tried to say, well, when you're in Morocco, well, people know here can testify that when they see me, you see me as I am today. This is why I am. I dress properly as my ancestors did. Okay. And as my ancestors roamed the lands, even in Morocco, I dressed the way my ancestors dressed. From the Sadiyin to the Alaween, I dressed as they dressed. And they dressed with the turban, they had beards, and they wear nice clothing. This is the sunnah of our religion, the sunnah of our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. You wear the best that you can, what you can afford, and you always give a good impression on the Muslim. You don't walk around looking like trash, if you understand what I mean, because that is not dawah. And last of this, it was mentioned, she said that she disagreed with me because she heard on one of my speeches that I will not hang around with, women, outside of my marriage, or go to meet with them or interview them or something without the chaperone of my wife. She said she disagreed. She said, because this is modern times and so forth. Well, our Prophet ﷺ has given us a sunnah. We are to follow it. We cannot disobey it. And she said she agrees with this other Muslim who appears that it's okay because he's not doing anything wrong. Well, this is Islam. This is not Christianity or some other religion. This is Islam. We have rules, makram and non-makram, meaning the person, we have chaperone, and then we have those who are not chaperone, meaning I cannot go, as I explained, with many different women out on the street and so forth. We cannot do this. It's a sin. And not only that, in Muslim states, it's a crime. And I left her with one thing, and I said, look, you married to a Muslim. Would you want him on YouTube hugging and kissing other women? And I asked her that question. She said no. I said, okay, that answers it, doesn't it? And lastly, I said the brothers who are doing this, who run around and, and I'm not accusing them of anything wrong, but they are in violation of law. They could be arrested under the Sharia because they're hanging around with women. They're not their wives. So they're violating this particular thing. Doesn't mean that they're making zina, which is fornication. No, but they're around with women that are not their wives. They cannot do it. And I said, if they said that they're modern Muslims, I guess they allow their wives. Their wives come to them when he come home and his wife says, you know what? I want to go on YouTube. I want to go with this guy and I want to go and travel with him. I want to go to a hotel with him and so forth. I wonder what this modern Muslim would say. Would he say, okay, wife, go ahead? I bet you wouldn't. I bet you wouldn't. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out because the sister brought it. She brought some good points, and she didn't know. She was trying to figure it out, and I gave her some verses of the Quran, and I discussed it with her. I left her in the state that she understood my position. So I wanted to get that out because the dear sister did make this analogy, and I understand that. So, my dear brothers and sisters, what I talk about today is the Nirma. I already covered some of it right there in that little speech. Nirma Allah upon us. Translation: the blessing of Allah on us. We as Muslims and even non-Muslims are so ungrateful towards the Creator. We are so ungrateful. We don't give our thanks enough to Him when we get things that we want and good things happen to us, or even things that happen to us that we don't want. We get sick and so forth. The Nirma Allah is an important concept in Islam. And there's quite a few verses in the Quran talking about this in various stages in the Quran. And the Nirma Allah is very important for you to believe, because the Muslim have to always have the gratitude towards Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the gratitude and the thanks towards Him for allowing him to be a Muslim, for allowing him to see and to smell, to taste, to talk, to be able to have motor skills, to walk. This is the essence of being a Muslim. And we praise Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We're not like other religions who don't praise the Creator. They only give lip service and they don't follow what He says. The Muslims, the ones who practice correctly, they follow, and they are always giving gratitude and they're always giving thanks to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because it's Him. It's not me or you or anyone else. It's Him. And our life, our being, our essence belongs to Him. It's Him who created us. It's Him who had allow us to be born, and it's Him who will, will we die and go into the grave, and then we will have to answer for our sins. And hopefully, those Muslims, we die as Muslims. This is important. So the Nirma Allah is important here, and I'll give you the first proof to this about the consciousness of the Muslim who is always have this Nirma, again blessing, the consciences of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And the first is Surah 35 and verse 3. But we can also use verse 2 in this particular surah. And I will read this off to you. And of course, I'll read this in English. I would not read this in Arabic. This is verse 2, and this surah is 35. What Allah, out of His mercy, bestows on mankind, there is none can withhold. What He holds, there is none can grant. Apart from Him, He is the exalted in power, full of wisdom. This is the Nirma of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He gives us and He takes away. It's Him. It's not another human being. Yes, you may say, well, yeah, I disagree with you. When I go to work and I receive money for my work, what is that? Well, this person was given some bounty from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to create the business. And so Subhanahu wa Ta'ala allowed this to happen. You are an instrument. You go to work there and you get your livelihood from that. It's still from the Nirma of Allah. And so therefore you still should give thanks for what you have. And this is kind of like what he's talking about. He none can grant apart from Him. That's right. Because everything that you get, it's from Him. What you don't have is a lot of times it's because of our own hands, what we have done and what we have said. And we have created something that has allowed us not to have something. But of course, we look at modern times. That's not to say, like, I look at a beautiful car and, costs, a lot of money. And that doesn't mean I've done something wrong. That's why I don't get it. Subhanahu wa Ta'ala may say, well, hey, you don't need this. So therefore, I may not be able to get this car. And there's a reason for it. Or one Muslim may have loads of money and another Muslim may not have. That doesn't mean the Muslim doesn't have is somewhere negligent in life. It's just that the risk that he gave to this person is a little bit more than he has given you, but maybe he's given you more faith than the person who has a lot of wealth. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister, Mystic. So we have to look at it in that regard. Now, number 3, again, Surah 35, verse 3, subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O men, call to mind the grace Allah to you, the Nirma. Remember, a Nirma. Is there a creator other than Allah to give you substance from heaven and earth? There's no God but him. How then are you deleted away from the truth? This is pertinent for what we see today. We have majority of mankind are worshiping his creations and not the creator. They're worshiping the river. They're worshiping the trees. They're worshiping the weather. They're worshiping another person. They're worshiping what they suspect is their own power. They worship idols of money, gold, silver, homes, cars. This is part of their worship. Things that they created their own hands, they use this as their ibadah, their worship on, which they make remembrance upon that and not on the creator. And this is subhanahu wa ta'ala here is talking. He gives a substance, the famous basketball players that we know, the brothers, you know, they're good at their craft and they're wealthy beyond belief. Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this substances. He gave them the body for them to perform in the actions that they need to action on the basketball court. And so therefore we look at them and we marvel at how they are so graceful, tall, and eloquent in the way they play basketball. And they've been paid well for it. And subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this substance. But you got to remember something, my brothers and sisters. The difference between the Muslim and the non-Muslim is that even though the Muslim does not have the money of a famous athlete, but he has faith. And remember, subhanahu wa ta'ala says he will grant those who do good, non-Muslims, good life and tidings in the worldly life. But he will not get this glad tidings in the hereafter. The Muslim, he may struggle in the daily life and the trials and tribulations with little money. He doesn't have the fanfare as the famous athlete, but he will then get rewarded in the hereafter. This is the substance of what we are, the differences between how subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at the non-Muslim and the Muslim alike. And so this is, again, and I'm going to read number 4. Again, Surah 35, verse 4, subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if they reject you, so were messengers rejected before you. To Allah go back for decisions, all affairs. Now, this is important, my brothers and sisters, in the Nirma of Allah. Remember the sister who got a hold of me, and she basically lambasted me because she says she didn't understand why I look the way I look and why I act the way I act. And she could not understand that. And she wanted to know why I didn't emulate the other brother that's on the TV who's handsome and debonair and so forth, why I don't emulate him. And so you see here, subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about that. He says, if they reject you, so were messengers rejected for you. Meaning, if you take the Nirma of Allah and you say, hey, I'm going to go the straight path according to what subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have people reject you. The sister rejected me in the sense of saying, she says, I don't understand you. You act this way here, and why you act this way when you're off the screen? Why are you still acting the same way? She didn't understand. And so when you accept that you worship the creator only, subhanahu wa ta'ala only, you do not sign idols to him. This is from the Nirma law, and he gives this to as he pleases. This is why the Muslims have a lifestyle that's far different than the disbelievers. Far different. I'm talking about those who practice the faith, practice it correctly. And So when this person comes to Muhammad, or he comes to Ahmed, or he comes to Isaac, and he says, or she says to him, I don't understand you, Isaac. Why are you dressed this way? I say you don't drink and you don't smoke, like I see some of the other people are doing there. Some are Muslims and some are not. I see some of the other ones who go out at night with women. Why are you not like this? And they try to chide Isaac about that, or Yahya about this, or Amina, or some other Muslim. And they stand fast and says, I believe in subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I believe in his Rasul, his messenger. And they say we cannot do this, and this is what I follow. And we have a sunnah that we follow, and we have a way that we follow, and we have a belief that we follow. This is what I follow. I will not follow the guide of men. I will follow the guide of subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger. This is the answer that is given. This person say, you know what? Okay, Isaac, I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want to see you anymore. Okay, I'll stay away from you. Fine. Oh, Yahya, you know what? I don't like that. I hate to see you wear this turban. I don't like the way you dress. Why don't you go and dress like the Tubab? Okay, fine. Let them go ahead. That's fine. I'm going to continue to follow subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to continue to follow the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. This is the Nirma Allah that he puts into the Muslim, the strong Muslim. He says, I will follow Allah. This is why the shahadatain that the Muslims take, that the others do not take. We take this. We say that we worship subhanahu wa ta'ala only, and that we follow our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. That doesn't mean some things. That doesn't mean 1/4 of things, then we reject the other. No, we do the best we can in following the laws, the Sharia Allah, and the Sunnah of Rasuli, alayhi salatu salam. We try to do the best. This is the Nirma, the blessing from subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those who do this, if you look at the history, my brothers and sisters, I know many probably have started to read about the history of the Muslims. Do you know that the gains that we have, the technology and the things that is happening way before we were created, when the Muslims were strong and they followed this, guys, in sciences and mathematics, creating world maps? They were given the guides of the map that they had no way of knowing. They did not travel the world. They didn't have the ships to go around to the North Pole. They didn't have the ships to go around to the Americas and all over the place and then write about it. Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the knowledge, and they drew maps, and those maps were accurate. This is what is also stunning, my brothers and sisters. Those maps are accurate. You think about it. Our brother who made this map, the first world, and this, look at Hawaii. He talked about Hawaii, and the name Hawaii actually in Arabic means the islands of the wind. Hawaii is that, isn't it? And he showed it he put it in this map. Now, of course, many years after that, as the Europeans came out of the Dark Age, as they began to travel, when they got a hold of this map created by this Muslim, they were astonished. I've had to believe when they saw this map and they found the coordinates of the Hawaiian Islands, and they found that his map was right. And they had to scratch their heads and say, well, how did he know that? That came from the Nirma of subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's right. It came from the Nirma of subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is important, my brothers and sisters, to look at it from the Genesis, not what you see today, but from the Genesis. Those Muslims who follow the Sharia, those Muslims who follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah, they prospered. And when they fell off, they got conquered. And that brings me to a point. We look at modern times again, and I have to bring this up, my brothers and sisters, because we have a calamity that's happened. We have two calamities that basically is happening. One inside America, where we are the slaughtering of African Americans. We have to say it as it is, the slaughter of African Americans. That's one of the calamities. The other, we have what is happening in Palestine, which is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And we know this. I don't care if those people are not black in color. But even that, let me tell you something, my brothers and sisters, about Palestine. Do you know that there's a sizable black African community there? And they have made jihad from every generation. They don't talk about them. Yes, that's right. And if you take the DNA of the Palestinians you will find a significant number of African blood in them. They are a member of the African Union as well. So don't look at them by the color of their skin and say, hey, you know what? They're not our brothers. If you're a Muslim, they're your brother in faith. But even in heritage, they are like no different than some of the light-skinned brothers that's roam in LA or Dallas or Oklahoma City. They have African blood in them. So you have to understand that as well. But I want to make a point about this. The Jews and the Muslims both are wayward from their books. The Jews, this Israeli government especially, does not follow the Torah. It does not. The Muslims who are being attacked are away from the Sharia as well. And subhanahu wa ta'ala has warned the Muslims. He's warned the Jews and the Christians, when you don't use his book, what happens to you? When you don't follow the prophets that was sent to you and the messengers that were sent to you, you don't follow them, there's things that happen to you. The Muslims are being attacked all over the place today because they do not follow the Sharia. They went away from that. They went away from Kitabillah and the Sunnah Rasuli. They went away. The African Americans inside the United States, they've done everything that the Tubab has asked them to do. The Tubab said, okay, I gave you freedom. He says, you go and you name your children after me. We did it. He says, you go and wear the clothes like I wear. We did it. He said, you follow the religion that we created, because he created this particular Christianity. He did not follow Jesus, alayhi salatu salam. He did not. And we followed it. And yet he still discriminated against us for 400 years, and he's still killing us. Even though we adopted his names, we adopted his religion, we adopted his clothes, we adopted his ways and means, and they still are killing us. Because we have went away from the Sharia of Allah. We as African Americans in particular, and I'm not trying to slight the others, Indians, Pakistanis, anybody, I'm talking about African Americans because they are from my community and they've been hit hard. And I have to talk in reference to them because they are Africans and I'm African, and I must look at their plight. And I say this, our brothers, if they follow the right path, subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them this guidance. He will uplift them. But we continue to follow the Tubab. We follow his religion. We still name our children after that Tubab. He enslaved us. Why are we going to give his name to our children? He enslaved us, and he's still killing us. We took the name Bob, and the Tubab cop, his name is Bob too. He took your son's life. Then we turned back around and we took his religion. And that religion is in contrary to the ways of Isa alayhi salatu salam, Jesus, or Abraham, or John the Baptist. We can go down the line, and it's in direct contrast to that. And we followed them, and we followed that religion. And look at our plight. What have we got for it, our sisters and brothers? We are running around in a wilderness. 400 years like in a wilderness without, like our head is cut off. We don't know which way we're going to go. We don't know what to call ourselves. And because of that dissension within us and within our community, the Tubab's taking advantage of us. And nobody likes us. Everybody hates us. I mean, everybody hates us. And therefore, we suffer. Now, if we look at the Palestinians, the Palestinians are being attacked. This is their land. The Jews are not following the Torah. And if they say they are, they show me this that talks about because they're supposed to preserve the mankind and they're supposed to be kind towards those who are not of their faith. They're not that. They are contrary to that. They're genocidal killers. Now, I'm not talking about all the Jews. I'm talking about the government. I'm not talking because you see, if you look on TV now on YouTube, Jews all over the place are against the Israeli government. So that's why, my brothers and sisters, as Muslims, one thing we have to always remember, we just can't go randomly kill Jews just because their government is doing it. Because the Jew that you may kill there in Alabama, or you may kill him in Fez, Morocco, he may be walking the street with Muslim brothers in protest against the Jewish government, and you just killed him out of blind hate. We cannot do that. This is why we have to be very careful. And the same thing with the Tubab. Inside the United States, there are many Tubabs who are standing with the African American, who hate to see the government and the police do what they do to African Americans. This is a nirma. And they're coming to join with the brothers, okay, the Africans in America, against this tyranny that's happening to them. And we should not kill them because they're Tubab. This is important, my brothers and sisters. And the hardline African who says, you know what, I hate every Tubab. I don't have nothing to do with any Tubab. Okay, I understand, I get that. And then he comes to me and he says, you, Yahya, you a Muslim. How can you like this Tubab? And I said, which ones you talking about? I'm talking about these ones here that you walk with, or the ones who come to talk with you and aid you in your struggles. I go to Surah 60, verse 8. That's what I use as my proof on why I treat those particular Tubabs with respect. Because Subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered us. He says, when you have disbelievers who are kind to you, who do not fight you and do not drive you from your home, you treat them with respect. And you have kind relationships with them. That's my answer to the hardline Pan-Africanists or the hardline Black nationalists who don't understand the Islamic religion, or any person who is filled with, rightfully so, anger for 400 years of genocide. I understand that and I get that. But we as Muslims are taught that we have to look at what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this. And the answer is Surah 60, verse 8. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us directions on how we treat this Tubab who comes to aid the African American, okay, with his law firm, or the Jews with their law firm. Again, this is part of the nirma that's given to us. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I see these people living under tyranny. So he brings forth people to help. Some of those people are Tubab. Some of those people are Jews. Some of those people are Asians. And they come to aid you. Nirma, blessing from Subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. That's right. So we have to look at it from that way. So I'm bringing you to modern times to explain some of these things about this, about the nirma of Allah. Now, let me go into something, and I kind of touched on this. The contrast to the nirma of Allah is what we suffer today as African people in Africa and the diaspora, period, and many of the Arabs as well. They look to the Tubab for everything. They wait for the Tubab, the benevolent Tubab, to lift them from their tyranny. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You have to do for yourself in order to uplift. And that do for yourself is what? Returning as a Muslim to the Sharia Allah, to Tabillah, and the Sunnah Rasuli. That's going to be your upliftment. He will uplift you when you return to that, because we have history that shows when the Muslims took this book and they went with it, and they went with the Sunnah of our Prophet, what they accomplished was something. And speaking of that, let me give you something. We talk about, many times you hear me harp about our ancestors, how much I love them, how much I revere them, how much I pray for them. We look at Mali, the empire, and we look at Timbuktu. You know, my brothers and sisters, you should read about what happened in the 15th to about the 17th century. Those brothers were something. The books that they created on astrology, medicine, okay, even how to perform eye surgery, how to perform heart surgery, how to agriculture, how to grow things. These brothers had the nirma of Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So much so that what happened? The Tubab in Europe came to study in these schools. That's right. Now, many historians will admit to this, but a lot of them will not, because the hatred and hate for the black man. They don't want to admit that they, in their dark ages, they came to our schools. Here in Fez, Morocco, we have the oldest university in the world. It's not sitting in England, it's sitting in Africa. The oldest city, the oldest university in the world is the Halloween right here in Fez. Europeans, the Tubab, came here to study. That's right. They came to Mali to study. They sent their brightest among the Tubab to Africa to learn, because our brothers were gifted with knowledge beyond belief. They created a sewer system. Can you believe this? Way before we had the toilets and so forth we know today. They created a system how to use the bathroom in the privacy of your home, and an irrigation system to remove the waste. Our brothers did that. That came from the Na'rf of Allah, because why? They were practicing Kitabillah, the Quran, and the Sunnah Rasuli. They stayed on this and they harped on this. And subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them knowledge beyond belief. Beyond belief. Back to this issue. We have too many Africans today still waiting. And guess what? We already had our first disappointment in President Biden. We've had Africans in America talking about this man was going to be like Abraham Lincoln for the African American. Look what he's done in Palestine. He refused to acknowledge what the Israeli government did to start this last go around between the Palestinians, our brothers, and the Israeli government. They attacked him at Aqsa. They attacked him in prayer. What man attacks a man when he's making a prostration and attacking from the back? What man does that? This is what they did. And they know that the Palestinians will retaliate, and they did. But only President Biden and his government only talked about the rockets that were shot into Israel. He did not cover. They keep saying, well, the Israelis have the right to retaliate. Wait a minute. How about the Palestinians who were praying at Aqsa? They were praying. They were not doing nothing wrong. They weren't shooting and killing. They were praying, doing their prayers, and they attacked them in their prayers. Why the Biden government didn't acknowledge that? They only acknowledged that when they, after the heat, the friction between the government came to a head, they began to shoot rockets. They did not. The government did not. That's the first disappointment. And I said to many already, I said, look, Biden has a long history of what he has done to African Americans. Yes, he's a gentleman, but don't wait for him to uplift you from your trouble. He is not going to do it, because as we speak now, there's an African American being killed by a Tubab policeman. He's not going to do anything to stop that. No, he won't. So don't wait for that. That is something that because we went away from the Na'rf of Allah. He gave us something to study. We have ancestors we can live by. We have Kitab Allah, and we have the Sunnah of Isa. Our brothers and sisters study that to be uplifted. Stop following the Tubab. Stop taking his religion. Stop taking his name and putting that name on our children. We need to stop that. Those names are nothing. And you say, yeah, you're wrong. Those names. Wait a minute. Let's go back. Let's look at the Bible. The Tubab created the New Testament. The Old Testament was by the prophets. They were legitimate prophets, right? Who are these imposters from the New Testament with English names? Now, wait a minute. Those names are not Hebrew. They're English. You have to ask a question, my brothers and sisters. You look at the New Testament. Everything that the Torah has set against, they changed it and put their own names to the testimony. They didn't use Hebrew names. They used their own names. When in the Torah, you do not eat pork. It's a grave sin. They said you can. They say you can eat anything. And so those names are their names. Those are not biblical names. Stop naming your children after them. Stop it. You should stop that. You have African names that you should be naming your children after. And then we have beautiful names, and those names have meaning. If you have to, even if you don't want to take a Christian name, that's your situation. If you don't want to take a Muslim name, an Arabic name, which is African, fine. You take a traditional African name, there's many that you can choose from. Do that. Stop naming your children Bob or Richard or Jerry or Larry or any of those names like this. We should stop that because it's not for us. Those are not our names. Now, the Nirma of Allah, I will say this here, is the Muslim who makes remembrance of Allah continuously. This is part of the Nirma of Allah, blessings. Second, the heart. The heart reveals the things that are inside the heart. The heart reveals your sins and also your ambitions. This is the Nirma. When you have the admission that you are sinful, you have the admission that you have made the sins, and you make the heart makes the admission that you're trying to be the best that you can be. Again, this is part of the Nirma Allah upon you. In Arabic, Nirma Allah alaykum, meaning the blessings Allah upon you. Now, the third is the desire of that heart to be the best you can be, but be sincere in what you do and your worship and how you carry the religion, how your relationship is with your families and your relationships even with the enemy. You should be sincere. And remember, I've been covering for the last 2 weeks the most favorite group, the Daifatun Mansur. Remember, I mentioned them, how beautiful these brothers will come in the future. You should strive to be like them. This is Nirma Allah. And the other part of this is for the Muslims. The blessings that you receive from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning you have made your migration as a Muslim from the hellhole in the United States to Africa. And now you are on African soil. Now you are among your people. You're among your original people. You're among your brothers on the continent. You are now in your natural homeland. You are now in your natural language and the natural food that agrees with you. You should give prostration. We call this Sujud Allah Shukr. This is in Arabic, meaning you make a prostration to Subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't have to make ablution and so forth. You make it when this particular thing come to you. This is what you do. You go down to the ground and you prostrate to him and you thank Subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving you this. Every African in America who makes the trek, who's left that hellhole there in America, all that racism and killing and all the despair and the tribulations, and you come on the African continent, you should be prostrating on that soil, giving your thanks, because this is the land of your ancestors. They live here and they died here. That soul is enriched with their blood, enriched with their blood and their sweat. When you come to this continent, you should give thanks to Subhanahu wa ta'ala by making the Sujud Allah Shukr, the sajda in Arabic, the prostration to Subhanahu wa ta'ala, thanking him. This is important. This is Nirma, the Nirma Allah. This is your blessing, and you're giving thanks to him. When you acknowledge that you got this Nirma, you left LA, now you made your migration. Now you're in Gambia. And we all know the brothers, you come to Africa, suddenly the chains, all of the filth, all of the hate, the genocidal killings and racism is gone. It's like you have been freed and like somebody has just purified you. You should thank Subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. You thank him. You go down and you prostrate down and you thank Subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing you to come back to the home of your ancestors, because he's giving you a blessing. You left that place. You left that place there in Dallas. You left all that stuff, that craziness and all that racism and everything, and now you're in Africa. And suddenly you have peace. Suddenly the food that you start to eat agrees with you. Interesting, isn't it? The fruits and stuff that you did not get there, all of a sudden you begin to eat it here. It agrees with you. Your complexion changes. Your complexion darkens. Your thinking of the world now is even uplifted, because you could not think good when you were in America, because when you come out of your house, you were worried about being shot and killed, or you were worried about some racism at work. Now suddenly you come to the continent. That's gone. All of this stuff happens. This is Nirma subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you. Make that prostration to him. One of the things of the Nirma of subhanahu wa ta'ala that he bestows upon you is that you give your obedience. Remember, I always use this word ta'at in Arabic. You give your obedience to his book and to the sunnah, and you follow to the best that you can. You learn it. And while I'm on top of that, the book that subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to the Muslims, okay? And he gave this guidance to our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. He did not give it to in English or Latin. No, he didn't. Or Portuguese or in Japanese. He gave it in Arabic. And he says in there, he gave it so you can understand in the Quranic Arabic. Now, you have to ask the question, well, why did subhanahu wa ta'ala do that? Yes, our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, he was an Arab. Yes. And those, the languages of these, what they call the Semitic languages, there's the stretch into Africa. All of them are African languages, all the derivatives of African. There's no doubt about that. But you have to ask the question why this Arabic? Now, let's go back to the Bible real fast, brothers and sisters. The original text is Aramaic and also Hebrew. If you look at the translations of that, they have been butchered. The Tubab butchered those translations for a reason. And subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the messengers Nirma to follow the up and coming prophet. That's right. And he put it even in his book. And the Christians refused to follow that. And you say, Yahya, what are you talking about? Let's look at this. Your Bible, when you do your study, Luke chapter 5, verse 16, subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions our prophet in this particular verse. And there's some other inferences to our prophet, alayhi salatu salam. And our Christian brothers reject it. And our Jewish brothers reject it. Some are coming, some of the Christians are coming, but not enough, because if they follow the book that subhanahu wa ta'ala is bestowed upon them, they would follow the new prophet, which is Prophet Muhammad, and become Muslims. They reject that. And that's important. Now, the Arabic, why the Quranic Arabic is difficult. Everybody knows that. Even the native speakers have some difficulties with it. You have to continuously read it and read it, because it is top notch of all the Arabic. And it's not easy. Even the Arabic who speaks Arabic have a tough time in many aspects of reading the Quranic Arabic. So you can imagine for people like ourselves who are not Arabs, who had to adopt the language, who had to learn the language, and it's how difficult. But you, subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his wisdom and his nirma that he gives to us, we get double the reward. That's right, because we don't speak the language, and now we adopted it and we learned it, we get the double reward. That's important. We get points for that. It will help us in that path to get to heaven. He put that language there so it won't be corrupted. The Tubab today is trying his best to corrupt the Quran. He cannot. Because subhanahu wa ta'ala made a promise to our prophet, alayhi salatu salam, that he would not have this book corrupted, because he saw what happened with the Torah. The Christians created the New Testament. The Tubab created the New Testament away from the Torah. The Jews had the Torah, and they began to reject some of it. So they created the Talmud, another book to go by. Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this. And he calls it, remember, I've been talking about this, tarif al-kalam. Well, they distort the words of Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so they have corrupted those books. The Tubab, the enemy Tubab, is still to this day trying to corrupt the Quran. He cannot. You know why? As it was mentioned before, if you throw the Torah and you throw the Injil, the Bible and the New Testament, you throw it in the ocean, and then you got the Tubab got all the Qurans and they threw everything and burned them and then threw the ashes into the sea. We as Muslims are the only one who could recreate this book over and over again because we have probably a million, probably so have memorized. The Christians don't have this. The Jews don't have this as well. That's a nirma from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a nirma from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why it's important that we try to memorize as much as we can of the book in its original text, which is the Quranic Arabic. This is a nirma. And so I wanted to give you that analogy so you can discern, to see what I'm talking about here, my brothers and sisters, that the Arabic is for a reason, because it's hard to corrupt. And if anybody who studies the Quranic Arabic, especially the verses of the Quran, you see how meticulous Subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the vocabulary and the sentence structure. It's far different than that of the English or Japanese or French or German or Russian or any other language. It's far more difficult to corrupt it. And even though you try your best to use English, it still does not give justice, because there's certain words of English that don't compensate for the Arabic. It just cannot. So those are some of the nirma that I was giving to you so you can understand and discern what I was talking about here. And remember something, my brothers and sisters. One of the aspects of the nirma is the risk in Arabic. Risk, meaning the substance. Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the substance here. He talked about that, remember, in verse, in Surah 35, verse 3, he talks about the substance coming from him. He also mentions this in other areas of the Quran, especially like in Surah Anfal, one of my favorites, the Surah of Jihad. One of my favorites where Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, I think it's in verse, I can't remember offhand, I'm trying to save time, verse 11 or so, I can't remember, what Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks, and I'll say it in English, he talks about, he brings the rain down. Okay, this is a substances for us. He brings the rain down for us to do what? To clean and purify ourselves. This is a nirma of Allah upon us. He talks about this in this beautiful surah, that's Surah 8, I think it's verse 11. I can't remember which one offhand. But he talks about the descension of the rain, that he sends the rain down so we can purify ourselves, and to what? To rid ourselves of the stain of the devil. It's in that verse. That's the nirma. That's the nirma. It's a beautiful verse. It's a beautiful verse. So, in a nutshell, my brothers and sisters, there's a lot more I can cover, but I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to give you a little bit more here. The religion of Islam. Subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear that he will not have anything other after this. In Surah 5, verse 3, remember, where he said, I perfected the religion. This is a blessing upon you because you will have this that your children can follow. Your children's children can follow. Why the Christians today are in disarray? You look at inside America in particular and look at the Christians, why they're in disarray. There's 140 different versions of the book. The Tubab keeps creating and creating. He changed here. He changed there. He keeps changing over and over again. And we still follow that. We have African Americans still following that, still hooked upon their book. And then remember, I gave the analogy when I was a Christian, which I could never understand. The pastor asked you to read that verse, chapter 21, verse 7. 5 people get up, each one of us recite something different. Not the Quran. It's not like that. You go to Surah 20 and verse 5, we all recite the same verse. This is a miracle from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said he will not have his book corrupted. And he gave the language so it cannot, it's difficult to corrupt Quranic Arabic. Very difficult to corrupt it because of the structure of the how subhanahu wa ta'ala made it. It's difficult to corrupt that. But the Tubab is trying, but he's not going to be successful. That's why, my brothers and sisters, you learn that book in its original text. Let the Tubab keep creating and trying to get you away from that. Let him do that. But you stay on the right path and you learn that language in the original text. It's hard, it's difficult. I have testified to that. I sit many times in my house before, cried, literally crying, begging subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me this nirma so I can learn the language. And he granted me, but it was not easy. He didn't give it to me the first day. I had to struggle and ask subhanahu wa ta'ala many times to give me this knowledge. And he bestows the knowledge on who he wants. So it's not like all of us will get it. And I asked that I learn this language, and I was granted it. Alhamdulillah. So I'm hoping that for you, my dear brothers and sisters. So in a nutshell, the nirma of subhanahu wa ta'ala, the nirma Allah upon you, is the things I mentioned here now, the blessings that we have. And we have to look at every time the Genesis, we have to look at what is good, and we have to look at what is bad. You look at the situation in Palestine, you have to ask the question, why aren't the Jews, the Jewish government, following the Torah? They would not kill the Palestinians. The Palestinians, why do they have vacated the Sharia? They have the Quranic law. They vacated it. They use some parts of it, just like the Israeli government. They speak Hebrew and they use some portions of the Torah, but they also use the Talmud as well. We have our brothers who they use some from democratic ways and means, and they use some from the Sharia. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to punish us for that. And all across the Muslim world, we have our leaders vacating the Sharia. And look what has happened to us. The Tubab runs our countries. That's right. And he makes sure that we don't follow the Sharia. And he says that you follow the Sharia, that you are a terrorist. You are a criminal. You're a malcontent. You are a militant. But if you go smoke, drink, fornicate, kill, rob, you do bidding for him, then he say you're a good Muslim. You ignore that. You do what subhanahu wa ta'ala told you to do. You're welcome, my dear brother Isaac. So my brothers and sisters, in a nutshell, again, the nirma Allah, please put it in your heart. Remember subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you make your dhikr, make that remembrance upon him, and you thank him for that blessing. When you sit down and when you make fasting and you see the beautiful dates in front of you and the milk, and you see the bread, and you see that you have your wife there, she's making this meal for you, that's a blessing. That you fasted all day, and suddenly here's the creation. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is put the fruit here for you to break your fast. You give thanks to him for that. Don't take that for granted. That came from his bounty. It came from his nirma. He put those dates around for us to grow in arid lands like Morocco and the desert regions and stuff like that. And you think about the miracle. Those date palms can grow virtually without any water. Of course, you get the best dates when it's irrigated to a degree. But you can go in the Sahara. That's why you hear me talk about the Sahara. You see me, I have pictures of the Sahara. I love it so much. I don't know why. When I'm in it, I don't know what comes over me. It's like my ancestors are telling me to come there, and they say, look, this is how your ancestors came across here, this desert, because there's something about it. I don't know why I love it so much, but I know that in the Sahara, you can go through mounds of dunes, and suddenly you find date palms with dates on them. Nobody's cultivating them. That's a miracle. That is a miracle. And the nirma from subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here you are coming through the dunes, and all of a sudden here you have oasis. You have fresh water to drink, and you have dates to eat. That's nirma Allah. You think about that, my brothers and sisters. You give thanks for that. And you give thanks also, my brothers and sisters, that you wake up in the morning and that you have your eyesight, because we have many that cannot see, that you can smell the food that's fixed before you. You can smell it, and you can taste the food, and you can love, and you can hate. You can have things, the human functions that help you to rid the body of harmful matter. All that's from the Nirma. You give thanks for that, and you give thanks that you have survived. You think about this, my brothers and sisters, Africans in America. You should give thanks because many of our ancestors are dead in the ocean. They died before they got to the Americas. Many died in slave raids. And here you are descended from them. You should give your thanks. And you should also lift up your ancestors in prayer. Pray for them if needed, meaning that you pray, especially if the Muslims, if you know they were Muslims, you pray for them and you ask that Subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive them for their sins, and that you try to emulate the best of them. This is a nirma of Allah, and this is my best guidance to you, that you try to do that. And then lastly, as who came late and those who came, I gave something about a person who had a discussion with me about why I look the way I look, and why I act the way I act, and why I don't act like another Muslim they see on TV and so forth, who goes back and forth. And I gave analogy to my dear sister to explain why I dress the way I dress, why I act the way I act, why Islam is my life. And I don't go from disbelief one day to belief another day. I'm the same. If you came here to Fez, Morocco, and you go around to people here, when you mention my name, they know. They'll tell you, oh, yes, we know him. He wears the imama. He wears the tobe, and he dresses very nicely, and he talks very eloquently. This is what they say. I'm not talking brag on myself. Please forgive me. That's not what I mean to say. But if you ask the people around here, now I'm not talking about the Tubab hate me because they always say I'm stupid and ignorant, but that's never mind. But I'm talking about my brothers here, Moroccan brothers. They'll tell you, oh yeah, we know him. Yes, he's over here. We know this brother. Yes, he wears this, he wears that, and he speaks classical Arabic. That's what they will tell you. So I follow that. I don't follow what Subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't follow. And I gave the analogy, and then I ended here. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah of Muhammad, which is Surah, again, I'm losing it. I think it's Surah 48. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala in there tells in the first couple of verses that you follow our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, that you follow him. And he says that the Muslims follow guidance and the truth. The disbelievers follow what? Innovations and disbelief. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in this beautiful surah, Surah Muhammad, I think it's 48. You should research that, our brothers and sisters, give you understanding. So, my brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up today. And our talk today on the Nirma, and I broke it down for you for modern times. And some of us are still fasting. I think this is my third day third day now. I had 3 more days and I finished fasting, and I can't wait. I'm going to celebrate in my way. I've already talked about some things with my wife about, I want to eat certain things and so forth and so on. I even told her I'm going to start fixing desserts, and she laughed. She laughed at me for that because I always told her I'm going to fix something, but she ended up fixing it. But I'm going to, celebrate, which I always do. And we break our fast. So my brothers and sisters, please take heed to what your brothers said today. Do your research and wake up as Muslim, stay as Muslim during the day. And when you go to bed at night, go to bed as a Muslim. Don't follow what you see on television. You see those who say they're Muslims, who you can't tell if they're Muslims or not. Don't follow them. And even our sisters and brothers are not Muslims. They're trying to take you. That sister was trying to take me away from my Iman, from my faith, by telling me I should go emulate the modern Muslims today. I refused that. And I explained to her, beautifully and with respect, in dear respect for my dear sister. And I gave her, she left understanding why Yahya Shabaka is the way he is. She understood because I didn't yell at her. I didn't scream at her. I didn't curse her. I didn't call her disbeliever. No, I gave her an answer. And I told her, and when she read it, she understood. This is the true dawah. This is the true dawah, my brothers and sisters. Not the dawah that you see on TV when someone is in violation of the Sharia and telling you it's dawah when they're in violation of the Sharia with women and hanging around, crawling around with different women. That's not dawah. That's criminal. And if you come here in Morocco and do that, you see what they will do when you go tell them, oh, no, I'm making dawah. I'm holding and kissing this girl over here because I'm making dawah. I'm trying to bring people to Islam. Which is that? They will come and say, oh, okay, yeah, that's what you say? Well, plaque, I'll be arrested. So my brothers and sisters, thank you. My brother Isaac is always my dear brother. You know, subhanahu wa ta'ala, I hope he bless you and your family and that he gives you the knowledge as well. My dear sister, Mystic, thank you, my dear sisters, for coming and hearing your brother speak today. And I hope subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and keep you safe wherever you may be. And our brothers and sisters who listened, same with you. I hope subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you and keeps you safe in these turbulent times and keep you strong in the faith. And that he looks out for you and your families. And especially, and I'll close with this, protect our young brothers, okay? Protect them, our children, our young men, please protect them in America. I can't emphasize that they are targets to be killed. If you have to chaperone your son, he's 17 years old and 18, you do it to protect him and to keep him safe from that tuba and from murder, because you don't know when it's going to come. How many parents we heard say, I didn't know they were going to kill my son. They were in disbelief that they said it couldn't happen to them. We take action as Muslims. We to protect our brothers. We protect our young sisters and brothers. Chaperone them. There's no harm in that. It's not you spying. You're trying to protect them because we're living in the turbulent times today of murder, of wanton murder that's happening there in the United States. And we need to protect because that's our future. What's in his loins, he's going to produce another generation. If he's in the grave, how can we produce? And they're killing our generation, our new generation, they're killing them off. One way they're throwing them in prison or killing them. So my brother, sister, protect that asset. Protect that. Chaperone your sons. There's nothing wrong with that. Explain to him why, Mom, why are you doing this? I love you, son. I need to protect you at this time. I'll take you to McDonald's so you can meet your friends. I will come to pick you up. There's nothing wrong. My father did that in my days. I remember, we didn't think nothing of it, and they chaperoned. I didn't think nothing about that. And they chaperoned it. It's okay. So you don't mind that. So my brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up today. Isaac, Mystic, and my brothers and sisters that's who follow me today. And I'll leave you with the beautiful, beautiful words from Jannah. Salamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.